Hi, I'm Dave Kale. Welcome to this Christian Business Insights podcast show where my goal is to provide you with practical, actionable ideas to help you create businesses and careers of excellence and at the same time multiply your influence for the kingdom. I have been a Christian in business for over 30 years, and I have personally and contractually consulted with over 500 different sales organizations. So in these podcasts, I combine the lessons that I have learned with an out-of-the-box experience and perspective on Christianity that you will find challenging. And we put that together to provide you with practical insights and ideas that you can use to live better and lead better. Welcome to the journey. Hi, this is Dave. You know, I think we're all aware of the fact that we are living in times of unprecedented change. I mean, really, truly, things are changing today in our world at a pace that is unprecedented in human history. We see industries disrupted by new technology. AI looks like it might invade everyone's life and job, and the institutions and values that we held closely just a few years ago today are in question. So what do we do? You know, how do we sort this out? Well, there's a number of different strategies, but I'm going to go first to the Bible. Christians will find guidance in the Bible. You know, we're often familiar with this quote from Romans 12:2. Let's just give this some thought. Here's the quote: "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." Romans 12:2. Okay, have we ever thought about how this might apply to our lives in the marketplace? As we all struggle with doing a good job for our employers or building a successful business or a successful practice, does this passage provide any insights? And how does it speak to our 9-to-5 world? Well, let's dig into it and view it from the perspective of a marketplace Christian and see if we can't get some guidance from it. I'm just going to go, word by word through this. Let's begin with do not conform. Do not conform. Now, conform means to comply with rules, standards, or laws. It implies an active process. In other words, we don't conform once and then that's it. Rather, we constantly, every day, make decisions to comply with a set of standards. And we're constantly making decisions to live or manage our careers or run our businesses by the principles, practices, and processes to which we subscribe. So, do not conform to the pattern of this world means don't live day to day subscribing to the pattern of this world. And so let's look at it. What does it mean? What is the pattern of this world? What exactly is the pattern of this world for a marketplace Christian? Again, a definition of pattern is a form or model proposed for imitation. In this sense, it's composed of values, processes, principles, and practices that define worldly marketplace success. Now, we understand that there are some things are beneficial. For example, we've learned a great deal about over the centuries about how to successfully grow corn, build automobiles, write a coherent sentence, and, thousands of other human tasks. When God gave creation to mankind, he gave us not only the world we saw, but a world of vast potential. And much of the progress that mankind has made consists of uncovering ever more of the riches in the world around us and co-creating with God an increasingly sophisticated world. So we understand that the real issue is the values and principles that often come alongside this practical knowledge. They can be twisted to a worldly pattern or managed in a godly way. So here's a simple everyday example. The world holds that it's acceptable to let your bills go unpaid beyond their term, sometimes even months late, just because you can. And that allows you to manage the money that would have gone to the vendor in a way that benefits you. Now that is a worldly practice based on a corrupt value, which is part of the worldly pattern that this passage talks about. A godly response to the same situation is to pay your bills within the terms to which you agreed. Let's keep going. The next phrase says, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This is the heart of the passage. After just forbidding us to follow the world's pattern, the passage offers an alternative. Be transformed. Okay, exactly what does that mean? Well, it means to be made into something else, to be made into something different. You know, think of the Transformer kids' toys that transform a car into sort of a mechanical beast. So a thing or a person becomes something radically different. Transform signifies a radical, significant change, not a slight modification. So instead of following the worldly pattern of marketplace success, we are commanded to, quote, be transformed, to be radically made over. Rarely is transformation an instant event. Rather, it's a process. It's practiced over years that gradually moves us closer to the goal of complete transformation. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, that's the next passage. By the renewing of your minds. So it all starts in our heads. If we can renew our minds, we can touch every area of our lives. Everything we do, interactions with colleagues and employees, conversations with vendors and customers, financial decisions, etc., everything can be touched when we renew our minds. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, here's a couple proven practices. How do we practically renew our minds? How do we take this strategy of be transformed by the renewing of our minds? How do we actually pull that off? Well, here's a couple ideas. Number one, control the input. That means put into our minds things which are of God's economy, not the world's. So you seek to eliminate the things that promote a worldly mindset. Eliminate things that promote a worldly mindset. You know, TV shows, books, social media posts, friends, acquaintances, etc., that all promote a worldly mindset. Seek to reduce or eliminate them. Instead, increase the input from sources which promote God's pattern. So seek out small groups of Christian people, business people to associate with. Find Christian business publications to read and subscribe to. Locate Christian podcasts and YouTube channels and avail yourself. Engage with those. Dedicate a portion of time each week to taking in godly input. So number one, you control the input. Number two, modify the process. In other words, spend more time processing or thinking about the good stuff and less time processing the worldly stuff. In other words, be careful about what you think about. Now, we're given some precise instructions in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6. Let me read this. I mean, how do we know what to think about? Well, Bible tells us. Quote, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. That's the process. Think about those things. So you set aside time to consider the ideas you've gained from godly sources and plan how you can implement them in your career or your business. So two things here. Number one, control the input, get good stuff coming in. Number two, spend time thinking about how you can implement those things. And consider the benefits. Here, and this is the last part of that Romans passage. Quote, then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Note that the benefit of this commitment is a greater knowledge of God's will. You'll see His will not only for the world, but for your life. You'll see career decisions more clearly. You'll understand the principles and practices of running a business or managing a career through God's eyes. Having been transformed, you will see the impact on your life and career. In our age of turmoil, when things are changing more rapidly than at any time in human history, renewing your mind may be the ultimate career and business strategy. Okay? Hey, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. Do you know I have a YouTube channel? Yeah, we post weekly, once a week podcasts on a YouTube channel. I'm going to put the link in our show notes. Check it out. That's it. We're done. Bye-bye.